open on my screen and I can see us all. So we are now live.
Okay, excellent. Hello, everybody. This is Chrissy. And today is Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. And we are having a pre-launch party for the release of the Two-Tall Giraffe. And so I want to introduce my very good friend, Vanessa, all the way from across the pond, who is going to be hosting today's pre-launch party because she's the bubbliest Pilates instructor I've ever met. And not just because it's the only person I've done Pilates with, but because she actually is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chrissy. Well, I feel very honoured that you asked me to do this interview. So thank you for trusting me with this. I'd like to introduce our illustrious illustrator, Aviva, who's joining us from Germany. So we're covering all the continents nearly. So you two have, and congratulations, Aviva, on the launch of your illustrations in Chrissy's book.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Lovely. So how did you two meet? Chrissy, do you want to go first?
Sure. Way back in the day, in the 50 fandom, I met people. Aviva met people, and they were in common. And then Aviva had done a project for E.L. James, and it got lost in mail.
Oh gosh, yes, I remember that.
Really back in the day.
It was for the launch of the first movie. And I've been asked to do a project for Erica to get to her as a gift to the premiere in New York, I think. And anyway, I sent it very early on, before Christmas even, to Chicago. And somehow it ended up in the Christmas mail. And there was such a backlog of parcels going to America that it took like a March until it finally ended up in the hands of a person who should receive it. But the premiere of a movie was on February 14th, so it was way too late, and we had to get it back to London by that time. But I asked everyone I felt could help in any way to find out where this parcel is, because it was a very it was an over 80 pages long illustrated illuminated manuscript I did, and it was an original, and there was only one version of it, and I really didn't want it to be lost in the mail. And so one of the things I did was ask Chrissy, and we did a whole project out of it, also promoting it over her podcast and everything. And so after that we stayed in contact, because as Hermione says, or I think it's Harry and Harry Potter, you can have some experiences you can only have and become friends afterwards. that's one like meeting a friend.
So we all know each other through the 50 fandom, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. Originally.
Yeah.
And this is what a fandom does. It brings people together and makes them friends.
And the fun thing is, even if we live everywhere around the world, we all have met in person.
We have. Lucky us.
In Paris, no less.
Yes.
Where none of us live.
Vanessa at home, also in London.
Yes, we did. We had a lovely afternoon tea, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Awesome, cool. Now, as you have the book out, and you have the actual children's book, and you also have a colouring book between you. So, and actually, Aviva, you have your Berlin Sunset colouring book out as well. So I heard you were going to do a giveaway for that. So do you want to explain where people can enter your giveaway?
Yes, and I have a copy of Berlin Sunsets right here with me that you can see. And you can, for this giveaway, it's going to be commenting on this post. I'm going to pick a random post, a comment from this live stream. And because I know a lot of people are working and life is going on, they can't be here. So I will close it tonight at midnight. So
can I participate? Because I have a confession to make. I haven't seen the book in real life yet.
Well, you still can't, because it's just over the ethers on the magic of Zoom.
yes, it is quite lovely. Here's a random page.
So inside there's the actual original photo and then your colouring in page of it. Yeah.
Yes, and I tell the story I see in that sky. So in this page, it is a soccer player, and you can see the leg and the head that's a little bit bigger, and the hand. And so on every page you will find there are hedgehogs in the sky and kangaroos, and there's a whole farm up there. And so every page I created this a page where you can see the story that is happening in the evening sky over Berlin.
Amazing. Awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
So make sure
Lovely.
you're commenting below, and one lucky person will get a copy, and we'll get one to Aviva too.
Well, one day I will buy my own copy.
And Chrissy, you have your Cuddles for Clefts
Yes.
giveaway.
Yes. So this is my very own Cuddle for Clefts. It is a giraffe name, obviously it's giraffe name mosaic. And these were created by a family who had a son born with a cleft, and they wanted to do something to help bring about acceptance of clefts and make their son feel more comfortable with having one. And so they actually have 4 different animals. I want to say a bear, a tiger, a giraffe, and a monkey, maybe. But they have actually graciously donated 2 Cuddles for Clefts for me for my launch. And I will be choosing 2 random winners on next Monday. Before I'm doing a global live stream Monday at noon. And I will be announcing winners then, but this is mine. So you can see they're quite adorable. And I will post a link on how to nominate somebody who is cleft affected, who would appreciate having a giraffe.
Awesome. I love your mosaic. Is she, he?
It's a she.
She is
Yes.
beautiful. Cool. And we also have your pre-sale bonus sign up
Yes.
giveaway.
Yes.
That's on your subscribe page.
Yes. Ooh, I lost that page. Okay. So if you have pre-ordered a book, and honestly, this will be up until probably next Monday, you can get a copy of the coloring book pages that you can download. You can get a set of giraffe quiz questions and a set of discussion questions that are geared, if you're reading the To Tell a Giraffe to kids, you can get somebody to help you guide that conversation with your child or somebody else's child, a classroom, whatever the situation is. And there's I tried to sort of build on some of them. So depending on how deep you want to go with the kids, the question sort of will lead you that way.
Cool. And so do they need to go onto the subscribe page and upload their purchase link or something? How do they?
Yeah, they just put in their order number.
Okay.
And then it will prompt them to do the downloads.
Cool. Amazing. So the books are available on all online retail booksellers, the well-known ones, and there's a version in German. So how did that come about?
You have it? I have, okay. Somehow I'm speaking German. And I translated it, and it was quite the journey, because I have translated things before, but these were all stuff that was more scientific in nature. And I've never translated a fiction book in any way, except for mine. But that's only for my parents. And so I started translating, and I realized that it would be way too long in German, because we use all these words that in the English language are not used to show tenses in the language. So in the past, you have a construct from 3 words that there in English would be only 1 word. So in the end, I ended up translating the German version into the present tense, because then I got rid of all the other words that are not necessary.
You don't need all those excess words.
Yeah, so we had a short discussion about it, Chrissy and I, because usually children's books are written in the past tense. And I told her she wouldn't have any pictures in the pages anymore when I do it in German in the past. So yeah, this is the only difference between the German and the English version, that you have it in a different time.
In a different tense, yeah.
Different tense, yeah.
Cool. So Chrissy, let's start from the beginning. What inspired you to write?
You know, I wish I remembered. I actually originally wrote this in high school. I was taking a reading and writing elective, which seems so weird to me now, my senior year in high school, and we had to write a children's book and illustrate it. And I actually did learn how to draw giraffes. They're, you know, they were better than what I sent to Viva, but still kind of cartoony. But I did that, and then, you know, I graduated and I left the book at school. And, you know, it's how many years later? A lot. And I always wanted to recreate the story, and it just kind of sits in the back of your head for years and years. And then when I started writing, I think like my first book, and I published that, I think that's when it really started to pop up in my head that I wanted to do it again. And I've been working on another novel for 2 years, and it was actually before the pandemic, I said, you know what, I really want to do this children's book, and I'll kind of take a little bit of a break from the novel. And so I sat down one day at Starbucks and started writing it out as best as I remembered it. And I worked on it a couple weeks, and then I brought it to my writing class where I workshopped it there. And I really, it's been fun, because when I originally wrote it, I was like, oh, this is a nice little story. You know, I'm like, but I don't really remember all the details from when I originally wrote it. And as I workshopped it, because I do it with I have an instructor, and then I have other writers in the group, I got some really good ideas to really amp up the story and amp up the message of it. And so I think there's this combination of, you know, there's just something about, especially as kids, where you can so easily, that thing that makes you different becomes the reason kids tease you and make fun of you, bully you. And really, in the end, when we grow up and we reflect back on life, those become our strengths. And so that's, you know, I think that's why the story became very important to me.
Cool. So was it a conscious decision to make it a children's book?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was kind of, that's what you'd done in high school, and you just improved it and added your life experience possibly in those however many years it is since you originally did it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting. When I was in school, when I was in elementary school, I had a learning disability, and I think it was 10th grade, my friend gave me a romance novel, and once I started reading, my reading and writing both improved dramatically. And so I think when you look at my senior year in high school, me actually taking this reading and writing elective, it seems so odd because I really didn't enjoy it before then because it was a challenge to read and write. So to do it then, I'm sure there was this underlying thought about how reading had been hard and now it was becoming easier. And that being a lot of what inspired me to originally write it, but I don't know for a fact. And I might not have even known it then.
Mm-hmm.
I probably was just like, I'm going to write something about giraffes because I like them.
I love giraffes. I'm going to write about giraffes,
Yeah.
as we do in school.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. So do you want to give us a brief synopsis of the story?
Yeah, so it is about a giraffe named Savannah who her family has to move because of lions, where they live, which is actually not in the story, got cut out.
Aviva is showing us the
origin story.
Yeah,
The page that didn't make it into the book.
Okay, this is an outtake.
yes.
So that's why Savannah had to leave. Savannah and her family had to leave where they were and move to a new part of the grasslands.
Yes, they moved to Kenya. And so she's starting a new school, and she gets there. She's very excited to make new friends, and finds out very quickly that she's the tallest giraffe in class, and the other giraffes are not so excited about that, and they're suspicious of her. And so this kind of goes on for a couple of days, and Savannah pretends to be sick so she doesn't have to go to school. And in that, when she goes to see the doctor to find out what's wrong with her, she finds out that she has this very powerful snort that could help save her and her friends. Not that she feels that she has any. And this is probably more than a brief synopsis, but that's okay. And then one day they're going to school and there are lions in the area. And when the lions get near them, Savannah has to make a choice. And
okay, don't say any more. People have to buy the book and find out what happens.
Yes.
Cool. So when you were doing your research for the book and you decided that Savannah was going to be the tallest giraffe, did you know that there are different breeds of giraffe so that you could make her the same age as the kids at school, but she would be taller? How did you determine that was going to happen?
I did look at the different breeds, but there's not a tremendous difference in size between the breeds. Like there's some differences, but in actuality, boys would normally be taller, but I really wanted this Savannah to be a girl. So I had to sort of play with that. But Savannah and her family are Rothschild giraffes, and the other giraffes are Maasai giraffes.
Okay. Rothschild's dress sounds much posher.
Yes.
She sounds like she should be wearing a tiara.
You drink red wine all the time.
Yes.
And if you look at the illustrations, Aviva did actually draw them to represent the different patterns of those types of giraffes.
I love that detail. Fabulous. So who's the audience for the book? So I'm getting the impression it's for the younger ages of the kids.
Yeah, I'm going with 4 years to 8, but and I think probably just more the language is probably, and the topic is a little more mature than 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they would still enjoy the story, but I think the message is a little bit of that 4 to 8 year old. Yeah.
So I mean, kids love picture books full stop. From as soon as they can open their eyes, they like looking at pictures. And so certainly that's not to deter anyone from buying the book if they've got a teeny weeny. The illustrations are so beautiful. Kids of all ages, and like you say, it's a lovely message to have going up 8, 9, 10, 11 as the kids go into secondary school here. All that learning to be proud of who you are is a message that you can take through life, isn't it? So
yeah, I spoke to a lot of kids who were over 8 and they enjoyed the story. Obviously they're not they're reading it with a different understanding, and a picture book isn't as interesting as it is when you're younger, but they still love the message.
Yeah, marvelous. So what was the process for creating the book? So I'm guessing you had the story first and then sent it to Aviva, or did you have some pictures in mind? How did that happen?
This was a question for me.
Well, I'm playing
the to me thing here.
Well, I guess I'll start, and just I had written out the story, and I do have, as we discussed, my first draft.
Drafts.
Yeah, with my illustrations. So yeah, I had a couple of drafts and that I workshopped and stuff. So I had the story pretty well laid out and page by page when I sent it to Aviva, and then I'll let her sort of.
Yeah, so I came in and I got the story, and for starters, I wasn't into giraffes particularly when I started this. So yes, giraffes exist, but everyone who knows me, I'm more of a logical kind of person and not so much of a well, yeah, giraffes exist, we have to be protected, but I don't have a real connection to them. So I started what I always do. I started gathering knowledge, because knowledge is my love language. And I started looking at pictures of different giraffes and learning all the stuff about Rothschilds and Maasai giraffes. And I can't say Rothschild like you do. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. So, and I started to have pictures in my mind that first turned out a little bit. It could have become dinosaurs. But I rescued them with some dots. So they actually became giraffes. And yeah, and I went from there. I had the what was going on in each page, and but we had a moment that we had to get together and talk about our vision of what would end up on the paper, because while Chrissy was very much into houses and schoolhouses and real doctors in the beginning, I from the very beginning liked it more natural, like a giraffe lives between trees and goes to a tree school. And I convinced her, because I showed her pictures of the Maasai schools in Kenya under trees. But even children in Kenya go to tree schools and not into buildings necessarily.
I love that level of detail. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so one of the first drafts I did from one page, for example, that's the very first page, where you see there's the cupboard in here. And we discussed that, and in the end, I got my way. Page in the book has no cupboard, but has trees and has this sleeping mat. What is the closest thing to a human settlement? We agreed that this should be how it should be, simply because I drew it like that. But that was mostly our process. It was a back and forth. I did sketches and I sent them over, and then Chrissy had ideas to put in, and at some point it was also that the things I drew made it necessary that Chrissy changed a little bit of the text, because it didn't work out in the drawings like it should have been. So she changed the text to fit the drawings in the end and some pages.
So it was like truly collaborative then. So it was backwards and forwards. How many drafts? It's really hard to say drafts and giraffes. in the same sentence. How many drafts of the book do you think you had?
About 8 total.
Yeah, but not all of them were illustrated by me.
Yeah.
So when I came in, I think the last 2 or 3 drafts were made. We had to discuss whether you can make the group of giraffes so different that you didn't have to use the names in the text of different giraffes, for example, or do you have to write the names in there? And it's quite hard to make very different giraffes. I can make the difference between Savannah, who is a Maasai, a Rothschild giraffe, who has these white stockings, and Rothschilds have 3 more like knobs on their head, one in the middle and 2 close to their ears. So and you have the different coloring in the Rothschild, but when it comes to making Maasai giraffes who have all the same distinctive features, different, it's I came to the end of my skills, because I did some difference in the 4 of the giraffes, but it's not so distinct that you can just leave the names out of that you recognize them on each page. This is this giraffe and this is this giraffe. It's just not possible, especially since the drawings are quite small, so the details become minusculous. And I'm working not on a computer. I'm working with paint and brushes. So
yeah, cool. So Chrissy, did you, when you were deciding you were going to write your book and you got your story, was Aviva the only illustrator that you were ever considered working with? Was it like a one-horse race? One giraffe race?
I had 4 people in mind, and part of it was I'd posted about it, and so some people had mentioned, people that they knew and stuff. And Aviva knows this. My first choice was actually my nephew, but he's like, I think he was too young to do this big of a project. So he said he kind of saw it, but it was going to be too much work for him.
I'm not taking it personally, but
but the next one was very easy. It was Aviva, who I've seen her artwork for years, and I knew she would, if she was interested in it, she would be up to the challenge.
Yeah. So what did you need from Chrissy, Aviva, to determine that you wanted to take the project on?
A project I liked. I could stand behind it completely. In the end, I can draw almost everything I want to, but when I put my name to it, I want something that has a message that I support. And there were 2 things that interested me from the very beginning in this book. One was the part that, unfortunately, in the end, doesn't come out that much in the book, because we had space problems. It's the part about Savannah being a refugee. That's just my family history. My family, I just rediscovered part of my family via ancestry.com, and that's because my family was drawn apart into all 4 directions. Some of my family became refugees in Algeria during World War II. Some of my family became refugees and now I'm not sure, Singapore, I think it. I'm always mixing it up with the other one with S. A lot of my family went to the US, to Argentina, to Australia, to Great Britain. So my family has a story as a part Jewish girl. my family has a story of being refugees. And there was a point in my life that the question whether I would become a refugee or not was very imminent in the time in 1989, when so many people fled from East Germany, and my parents had to decide, are we leaving or are we staying and fighting? And we decided to stay and fight. I was 13, so she decided to stay, and I decided to join the fight. So for me, this is very, very personal, and I think every one of us can become a refugee. And it's so easy, and you don't think it would happen, and suddenly there's a moment, and you have to decide whether to stay and maybe die, or to go somewhere and try to find a life that is better and offers you more opportunity. And Savannah's parents decided to do what my parents didn't, and I'm thankful that she didn't. But he took their kids to a different place because there was no way fighting the lions at that moment. The other thing about the book that drew me in was the point about bullying. I'm an autistic girl. I'm hyper intelligent, so I was always very, very different than my classmates, and even in kindergarten. And the kids let me know it. The kids sang songs that ridiculed me, and all these things. And it took me a very, very long time. And it wasn't just the kids. It was also my kindergarten teacher who made fun of my height and my dark hair and my name, and nothing about me seemed to be all right. And it took me until very, very much later that I grew into myself and decided, well, I'm unique, and that's my superpower. And because I am that unique, I am more detail oriented as others and can bring a lot of things other people would never connect together. So I can do art work and writing that other people couldn't do. And that's good the way it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is exactly what Savannah's story in small is. And these were the 2 points that drew me into the story and made me want to illustrate it.
Wow, that was an amazing answer. And that was fantastic. Thank you, Aviva. Thank you for sharing that with us. So were there any points in the book that you kind of quite strongly disagreed with each other? How did you kind of iron out any wrinkles if you felt strongly, for example, about having the drawers in the picture, and Aviva felt quite strongly that they shouldn't be in? Was there just a consensus? Like, did you eventually just come to a consensus? Did you have to, one of you actually have to go, okay, I'll concede this point, but actually I'm having this in the next picture?
There was one point, I'm not sure if Chrissy had the same feeling like me at that point, and that was about the doctor's office. I felt very strongly that an African doctor is not a Western European or American doctor, and wouldn't and this Giraffe doctor always struck me more as a shaman than a real doctor. Or
so not the white coat and the stethoscope.
Right. And Chrissy wanted white coat and stethoscope in the very beginning. And I felt very strongly about my point.
Oh, I think
she's frozen.
We lost Aviva. She'll come back in a sec. So she's back. I was going to say, Chrissy, why did you want the white coat and the stethoscope? Because with it being an American book, that's how children in America would see a doctor.
No, and actually, I don't even necessarily remember wanting like a doctor with a stethoscope, but that could just be because it's been so long. But I know I remember when like I had all these little stick figures and I had sort of images, but that's not like my creative space is like not like that's just not my creative. But I know when Aviva gave me some of the illustrations, I was like, wow, I never thought of the scene that way. And it works so much better that way.
Okay, good.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
Aviva.
so I think Aviva had visions that I never even thought of.
Yeah, which is the beauty of having a very clever illustrator.
Yeah.
So Aviva, back to you. So in your head, the doctor was more of a shaman. Yeah. Sorry, you glitched out. Well, we'll hear your doctor story again.
Oh yeah. I've had strongly that it is a shaman, and I had this vision of this guy in my mind. That he looked like an African shaman, and I went on the internet and checked several pictures of African shamans, and that's how I wanted to do it. And yeah, and I don't know if that was already cut off or not, but in the end I just bulldozed over Chrissy at that point. And I'm very sorry in one way, but in another I wasn't, because
no, I think you missed the point where Chrissy said that she hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but your illustration was so much better.
Okay, so yeah, I'm happy that it worked out that way.
So am I. Phew, we nearly had a punch up.
Yeah, but I mean, but in another, it was just the thing to do for me, because the book plays in Africa and not in a zoo.
Awesome. So from start to finish, how long did the process take? Chrissy, what was your? We're not going back like the 25 years or whatever it is to you doing it originally, but
yeah, I think for me those like first couple drafts probably just took a couple weeks. It took a couple months before I contacted Aviva, but once Aviva got started, I mean, most days she was sending me a sketch. Sometimes more than one.
I did the sketches during November last year, because I know it because I wrote in the morning to get my word count in for NaNoWriMo month, and then did in the afternoon I did the sketches for the pages, and I finished all the pages during November, and I finished the pages in end of January, because Christmas is a crazy time at our shop, so I had to work there in between, and that delayed things a little bit for me. But once I start working, I'm quite quick, so I was done with my part in January, and then it had to go get the letters on, the words, and become a real book.
Cool. So how does that process work? So you've got the story, you've got your illustrations, then you have the design process of adding the words onto the page.
Yeah, I had a company that does book formatting do it. So I send them the illustrations and I send them all of the words. And it took a bunch of tries to get it because the illustrations are so beautiful. The text in some spots was hard to read. So we had to get to where are we laying everything out and how does it work? And then I ended up going in and I felt like I was like stabbing Aviva in the heart. But I had to put in some pull it out. Some background overlay onto some of the illustrations so that the writing would pop out more. And so here's like So you can see, but I tried to do it where it didn't necessarily block out all of the illustration. You could still see all those leaves behind there, but it made the writing much easier to read. Which, especially when you're, with kids, you want to make it easy to read. But I felt like I was like stabbing her in the heart, just, blocking out some of those beautiful images.
Yeah, as an artist, you always want it to be, you want your art to pop out. That's the difference between being just an artist, where you just do pieces like what hangs behind me, and being an illustrator, where you have to step back a little bit and find a synopsis between the words and the art. And in the end, the words have to become part of a page, part of the art. So the way Chrissy did it was perfect in the end. So to just bring it together. It's not about the art itself. I have the pages here. I can look at them all the time without any writing on it. But that's not the point in this case. The point is you make something to collaborate with another person to make it even better in the end. And so it's not, it on the one hand, it makes an artist always sad that you don't see everything, but on the other hand, it's a way to has to go. It has to go.
Yeah. So the project is the book, not the pictures. So the book is both together, isn't it? Yeah. So do you think, are you both happy with the book, with the way the book's turned out, or would you like to, is there anything you'd like to tweak or edit? I know it's too late now, but is there anything?
If there is any typo in it in the end, either the English or the German version, I would have it another way, of course. But we think at least we count all of those. No, it turned out to be great.
No, I don't think I would change anything in it. I think it found the right balance of what it.
Awesome. Well, that's a nice, happy place to be in.
Yeah.
Cool. So so you got Savannah and her mom and the kids from school. How did you determine what the names of the characters were going to be?
So I think I always liked the name Savannah. So she was like the first person named, and then kind of the mean bully kids. It was funny. I was like, names that popped into my head were like people that I didn't like originally. And I said, no, I can't do that. So I just sort of picked.
Yes, you can. That's the joy of being an author. You can make all horrible people who've been in horrible to you in your life be nasty in the book, or kill them. Kill them. Kill them off.
Thing to do.
Yeah.
Bring them to justice.
Yes. But the one thing that I did do, and then after we finished it, I was like, oh, I messed up one of the names. But so you have Savannah. Her brother's name is Forrest. The doctor is Dr. Leaf, and the teacher is Mrs. Brandt. So I had all of these names that were very nature and sort of giraffe oriented. The brother's name actually was different originally, and then I was like, all these other three names make sense, and so I changed Forrest's name as not his original name.
What was his original name? I
don't remember. Oh, actually no. Oh God, that even more embarrassing. I named him after one of my nephews.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. So, but then I was like, it doesn't make sense with the story to have him named Alex. And then the three bullies were, I just kind of picked generic names, and it's Henry, Addison, and Dawn. And then Dawn was the name that I realized, oh, that's kind of naturey because Dawn, the sun coming up and stuff, but it's still not the same as like Leaf and Brandt. And so I did actually make a very conscious decision to have different names for those two different groups of characters.
Yeah. Cool. So in this whole process from start to finish, what have you learned about yourself? Chrissy.
I really enjoyed writing a children's story, which sort of, I don't have kids of my own, so it doesn't seem like an obvious choice. Like usually, it's people who have kids or, they learn something about themselves or their kids, and that's why they're writing them. But I found I really enjoyed writing it, and I'm excited to see, kids reading it and speaking to them and reading to them and then getting their reactions about it, which I don't think I would have said about myself 2 years ago.
That's cool. Aviva, what about you?
I think it's not something I actually learned about myself. It was something I knew, but that came out in the process of creating the book very, very pronounced. And that was, I'm a person who prepares for the zombie apocalypse by learning everything that there is about zombies. So I prepared for this book by learning everything there is about giraffes.
There you go.
And at some point, it just becomes I can't really stop it, even though I know it's unnecessary. At some point, I can't really stop it, and it annoys me already, and I still have to go on and read more, and because one of these details I haven't yet found out could save my life when the zombies come. So.
Or when the herd of giraffes rampage through your town in Germany.
Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's something that came out very much in this project, because I started with something I had virtually no knowledge about, other than that the animal has 4 legs and is yellow and brown. So yeah, that was my experience creating these paintings.
But it's still learning, isn't it? You've got something out of the experience.
Yes, and the other thing is, I would never do it in a pandemic again, because it was so hard to get my colors and new brushes and stuff. What I needed, because all the shops were closed.
Well, let's hope we don't have another pandemic and you get us to do another project.
We are still in the one. We are still in the one. I'm still not vaccinated, and I don't see any point where I will get my vaccinations, because there are no appointments open. So we are still very much in this pandemic. So I bet the shops are open now.
Cool. Okay, so back to Chrissy. So you had a book, a novel published before, Blue Sky Morning. So, I mean, they're obviously entirely different projects. So did you feel differently about launching this book than you did Blue Sky Morning? Because the process must have been different.
Completely different. When I wrote Blue Sky Morning, I got up every morning. I wrote 500 words every day. That was like my thing. And I wrote pretty quickly. I think it took about 7 months, depending on who you ask. That's quickly. Other people tell you it's really slow. But I wrote it very much in my own little bubble. I sent it off. I had like 2 editors for it, and nobody else read it. And I just put it out into the world, because I didn't want other people's feedback impacting the story that I wanted to write. And I was too new of a writer to do that, because I didn't have enough confidence in my own writing. Although I had confidence in the story. And so when I publish it, it's like I publish it and I'm like, okay, great. Now what? And not, I sort of I knew a little bit about marketing, but I didn't know. And it putting it out there was like a huge step in and of itself, to then go out and sort of sell it to people was much harder for me. And whereas this, I think it's a combination of having much more confidence, really this very easy, clear story, and the collaborative elements of it. I just have confidence in the story and that it can help people. And the message that, and knowing it's going to help people, makes it much easier to come out and do like a pre-launch party like this, to go to, you know, charities and work with them to try to get the word out about it. Whereas I didn't have that level of experience or confidence in the first book that I do now.
So did you have lots of people read The Two-Tall Giraffe? Whereas you said you didn't really have anyone read Blue Sky Morning.
Yes. You know, not just, you know, Aviva and in the workshop, I had some friends read it. I had family read it, and got a lot of really positive feedback. And it's funny, I don't remember where people were in the process when they read it, because I know it's, even when we were putting together the pages for the interior, there were things that were moved around and taken out or added in because of room. So I know that nobody's seen the final project until they've seen the final project, but a lot of people have seen it along the way and have influenced how it's turned out.
Cool. So what's next? So Aviva, what's next in your pipeline? What projects are you working on?
I have had years for other coloring books that I want to put out now that I finally have hopefully figured out how the template thing on Kindle Publisher functions.
That sounds like it's been a bit of a journey.
That was quite the journey. And I'm not like Chrissy. I'm not going back and asking the people when they send me you have to change this and this. And she sent me the same comment 3-4 times after I did it the first time and the second time. Chrissy goes and talks to them. I'm not talking to people. People are not my thing. So I tried to figure it out by myself. In the end, I did somehow, and I hope it will work for other things. And I have writing projects that hopefully will come out sometimes. I'm writing young adult.
I was going to just ask, do you want to give us a little taster of what it is? So
the book that is most likely to come out first is about skateboarder, a girl, Anat, who is like dynamite on the skateboard. She has a very short fuse, and she is the shoe-in for gold at the Olympic Games in San Diego. And in the process of preparing for the games, her best friend / the girl she kissed goes missing. First, she thinks she's ghosting her, and then she realizes she's gone missing from the same cruise ship she's boarding. And she has to decide, is she going after the girl? Is she going after gold, or can she manage it both in the end? And I play a little bit with the idea of a nasty woman. Women are not to be aggressive, and they have to be mild-mannered and everything. But aggression can be a source of power. And I play with the idea of Anat, who is an ancient Semitic goddess. She was all over the place in the Middle East, once one of the major female goddesses, and she was a goddess of a war. And she was the female warrior. And whereas other gods and goddesses of war at that time, or mostly gods, stand for the idea of war and aggression, she calls in all the peers and to celebrate a victory, and then she just slaughters them all because she knows that that all these people had fought against her mainly. So she is a real piece of work.
Badass.
A badass in a way, and I transform this image of this goddess Anat into this tiny, and her nickname really is tiny skateboarder who is fighting for gold and has a very nasty competitor and has all these problems because she only discovers in the journey that she is B, and that she can love a girl and that she can be loved, and that's the book. And
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool.
That's
You promise to let us know if you get any good news on that, so we can share that for you.
Oh, I think everyone will hear it when I get these.
Marvelous. And Chrissy, what's next in the pipeline in your projects?
I'm working on a novel for like 2 years, and I'm getting close to the end with my first draft. So, I mean, that's certainly, a year out before, anything with publishing that. But I also have an idea for a children's book, which I've already mentioned to Aviva. And it starts out, for those who don't know, I had a giraffe that I traveled with for over 9 years named Rasputin, and it's going to be his story after he was stolen from me in Ecuador. So I have a concept for that. I just need to, I think, finish up this novel and then work on that.
I want to make clear she had a stuffed giraffe. She didn't travel with a giraffe.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
He was a wee one, wasn't he? He was a wee giraffe.
Yeah, he's like about the size of your cell phone.
Yeah, amazing. So, right, so that's the hour up, ladies. So thank you very much. Again, thank you for letting me host your conversation and be part of your launch day. So Aviva, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Best thing is to go to Twitter, and my handle there is Aviva Burgner, so my real name @Aviva Burgner, or my screen name is Berlin Babe. You get a whole avalanche of sunset pictures from Berlin, everyday one. I have a webpage. It's a stranger between worlds.wordpress.com, where you can find all my art and a portfolio as well for anyone who wants to book me as an illustrator. Give me projects I love.
And do go and have a look at Aviva's page, because there's so many beautiful things to scroll through. Chrissy, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, before I say that, I just want to say that I didn't realize this when I asked Aviva to do my illustrations, but she actually designed one of the Berlin Buddy Bears for Israel, which is really cool, because back in 2006, when I was in Berlin, I ran into the Berlin Buddy Bears at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and with a bunch of people not from the US, and we all found our buddy bears and stuff. And it was like a really special night that I was remembered. And so it's nice to know that Aviva's bear was probably there that night.
Representing Israel.
So, as for where to find me, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Traveling Giraffe, with only one G in the middle, because when I created it, they didn't have enough characters to have to. So so in my head, it's Traveling Giraffe. And then my website is thechristinmaier.com. But if you want to find out just about the Too Tall Giraffe, it's thetootalgiraffe.com. And all the links on where you can get it are there. It pretty much anywhere books are sold.
And all of the links for the books, the colouring books, Aviva's sunset book, are all going to be dropped into the comments below our chat.
Yes. All right.
Cool.
Did I survive it now?
You did, but we're still live. All right.